the regular meeting agenda of the Township Board of Trustees. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. April, could you let the record note that we are all present except for Sean? And Sean did give me a call. He had some family commitments, and he possibly will show up at a later date or a later time tonight, but he couldn't make it when we started. Okay, we're going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda. We did have a couple things I'd like to add one thing to our reports. I'd like to add a CES update to the reports. And I would like to delete item K under new business and item L under new business for the reasons I believe we should talk about that in our budget sessions. Does anyone else have anything to add or delete?
No, but
Did you catch it?
is it a renewal or is it just was it actually extending the term?
No, we're going to be spending some more money.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about that in the budget process first.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to announcements and communications. And I want to start the announcements out by letting everyone know that we did have a resignation, actually. One of our long deputies here, I couldn't call her deputy, she was an assistant, but she'd been here for 15 plus years, Debbie Cothery. She was very, very good to the township. She did a very, very good job, and she decided to move on. So she will be missed. I just want to let everyone know that. She was a great employee. Anyone else have anything they'd like to?
John, I just wanted to point out that I had noticed that the airport has been doing quite a few improvements, and they were doing some resurfacing of their runway, and it was nice to see some attention being paid to that township, or to that airport.
That's nice. I didn't know that, actually. Anyone else?
Sure, I got a couple. It's just a quick update. I did get a chance to meet with MDOT on the I-96 flex route and go through their proposed plans for the next, I guess, construction over the next 3 years. So it's going to be a good improvement. They're basically doing what they did on US 23 and adding a drivable shoulder, basically from the Oakland-Livingston County line all the way into 696. So it'll be pretty busy. There's some lane metering and stuff that's going to be added to it as well. So mainly my purpose with talking to them is trying to make sure that they're able to work with our fire chief and time our emergency response with the construction too, because we do respond to incidents on I-96.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Seeing no other announcements, we're going to move on to the call to the public. Soon you can come up and talk about non-agenda related items. So please state your name and address for the record. Okay. Seeing no one, we're going to move on to reports. And the first report is the DDA, and I don't have a lot to offer on the DDA other than that we are actively looking for a replacement for Tina. We haven't been very successful. We've been advertising. There's not been a lot of applications coming in. The ones that do come in, we do interview them. So far, we haven't found anybody that would have the fit. Kathleen Jackson from McKenna has been picking up the interim DDA person, and she's been doing a great job. So that's really all I have to offer. We're actively looking. We're going to move on to fire. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to start acknowledging Walnut Creek Country Club members. On September 11th, they invited us to remember 9/11, and they asked if we would consider like a Fill the Boot, a fundraiser. So it was an impromptu thing that they started during this 3-day golf outing that started on 9/11, and they generously donated close to $10,000 for the Great Lakes Burn Camp, which are children that are go to 2 camps or 1 or 2 camps a year, and it's about $600 per camper. So they really stepped up, and I just wanted to acknowledge their membership. We'll make it a little more public or do a PR thing down the road when we get the check. So that was one item. Another good news was we had a joint grant application with 5 other communities out in western Oakland County through FEMA to replace aging and outdated air packs. And our share is expected to be around $450,000, which is going to save us a ton, because I think we'll end up paying maybe 10% of the final cost. So I don't have the final numbers, but really good news there. Labor negotiations contract is going along better than it has been, and so just we're moving forward there. And as far as the Station 2 update, we did get the final report from Lindau Associates, and we can discuss that. My proposal would be that we can either put it on the agenda for the November board meeting, or we just discuss it before that at the budget workshop, and we'll kind of see where we go from there. And that's my report. Any questions?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving on to Sheriff. Sergeant Sherman's with us tonight. Hey, Sarge.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
For those that don't know me, my name is Raymond Sharma. I'm the day shift sergeant here at the Sheriff's Office. I'm in charge of the Detective Bureau as well as day shift patrol. We have coats for the cold coming up. We'll be setting up a box in the lobby where coats can be donated. That'll be set up on the week of October 25th, and it'll run from November 1st to November 30th. And the coats will be distributed during the first week of December. Additionally, as some of you may be aware of, on September 21st, there was a break-in at the Huron Valley Gun Store. Myself and Detective Rakowski worked extremely hard on this, and by the 27th, we had 2 of the 3 people identified and in custody. This was a joint effort by the Sheriff's Office here, Portage Police Department, Grand Rapids Police Department, and the U.S. Marshals.
Congratulations. Great job on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. All right, we're moving on to the Planning Commission.
Okay. The Planning Commission did have 2 meetings in the month of September. The first one was Monday, September 13th. We did have 3 public hearings. 2 were regarding the Magnum building addition, special land use, and the site plan. The Planning Commission approved the site plan with conditions on the approval of the special land use recommendation by the Township Board. They approved that. And then we had the RV storage text amendment, and that was tabled. We need some more information regarding that. The Planning Commission was pretty divided on it, and they wanted to talk about it a little more, and Brian's going to get some more information for that subject. Then we, under old business, we had the Hudson Town site plan review, and that was recommended to the board. And we also had the Aspen Trail Plan development, the extension of approval, and that also was recommended to the Township Board. That concluded that meeting, and then we also had a meeting on Monday, oh, right here, sorry. Monday, September 27th, and it was a pretty short meeting. We did hold a public hearing regarding GRA development loading dock addition, special land use, and the site plan review. And that's the old Jerry Baker building, if anybody remembers that. They have always had beautiful landscaping there. But the Planning Commission also approved that with the condition, they approved the site plan with the condition that the special land use is approved by the Township Board. And then we had no old business, we had no master plan update at that time. So that concludes my report.
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? No? We'll move on to ZBA.
We had a meeting regarding a request from NLB Corporation, 2 variances, one to have a larger wall sign that would measure 66.39 square feet, and then another variance request for 2 signs, larger signs for traffic flow within the development. And both of those were approved, and we asked Brian to bring that to the Planning Commission and maybe reevaluate some sign ordinance requirements for larger buildings like theirs. And we have a meeting in October as well.
Great. Yeah, I think that's needed. I
Right.
think it's needed to get that sign.
I was happy you guys approved that too.
Well, they were talking about the trends in consolidating some of their warehouses and into larger buildings, and really it was a relatively common trend that some of these companies are going with. So we felt that the Planning Commission should take a look at it and see if we should increase that sign for larger buildings.
Yeah, well, signs are important to business, no matter what anyone says. They're very important, and I believe we should be proactive in making that easier. All right, Park Advisory Board.
We did not have a September meeting,
Okay.
and it looks like our October meeting is tentatively going to be rescheduled for the 26th.
Okay.
Robert, is there going to be any discussion about the ice rink at the upcoming? I know we kind of postponed it for a year.
I don't believe that it makes sense to do still at this point with
Okay.
still ongoing unpredictability about what regulations we could be facing with COVID, and weather patterns lately haven't been particularly kind to the idea either.
Fair
Sounds
enough.
it's like a smart idea for this
Yeah.
year. Maybe you'll get going, earlier next year if things change. Sounds like a good.
Okay. All right, the water, we have an update coming from Ed. He's running a little bit late, so when he shows up here, then we'll get him in, and I'm gonna let him do his own update today. Okay? CES.
Thank you. I asked to be added to the report section tonight because something has come up regarding the Pontiac Trail South project that I wanted to inform the board, and I didn't want to wait until the November board meeting, so thank you for letting me get into some details here. You may recall this was awarded 2 months ago at your August board meeting to Lawrence Clark, and it was conditioned on receiving the Act 399 permit from the state of Michigan. Well, we've been in talks with the state, and they've had some concerns because there are some parcels with contamination along Pontiac Trail. And we've designed the entire project to be directionally drilled with HDPE, which is a plastic pipe. Eagle will not permit a plastic pipe within the influence of contamination. So they're very likely going to require at least 3 parcels to be transitioned to ductile iron. Due to the number of businesses and utilities, we asked the low bidder, Lawrence Clark, for a price to directional drill ductile iron in those areas. And it would be about 700 feet, and it would add approximately $100,000 to the project. It's pretty significant. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. So the original bid in award was $1.294 million. With this change, I would expect it to go up to $1.39 million. With a 20% contingency, I would be asking for the township to budget $1.67 million towards this project. I'm optimistic that it'll get started this year, but most of this I would expect to be in your 2022 budget, but wanted to inform the board of what was occurring and the reasons why. For a matter of public safety, I have no issues what Eagle is requiring. I think it's actually very prudent, but wanted to bring it to your attention and make sure you were all aware of it. And if you wanted to discuss further, we can always place it on the budget workshop or even the November board meeting.
So we're good if we wait till the budget meeting, because that would be the place to really talk about that a little bit.
Yes, I would just need direction though. If Eagle's requiring this, should we consider, I guess, continue with the contractor that we have? They've already invested some time in obtaining bonds. We haven't signed the contract yet because we don't have the permit, so I would need some direction, I think, at this point on should we proceed with
They were
this.
quite low, weren't they?
Yeah, they were low. They were low by over $100,000.
So, I
They'd
mean,
still be low.
It would make no sense to rebid that if they're still going to be low.
No, you don't want to rebid.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least I wouldn't recommend rebidding.
Well, I think that the whole project came in pretty much under budget, too.
Yes, I
mean,
believe
we
you
had a
budgeted
lot
$2
more
million
money.
for that project this year.
I have no problem with it.
So I think if DEQ, and this is just my thoughts, say that you have to do that, I think we have to do that.
I agree.
I mean, if it's contaminated soil, right?
Do we have an
Chris?
idea of?
Wake up,
No,
man.
you're right. You're absolutely right. No, I was just trying to look up the budget, and I think you just said it was $2 million.
That was what I
It was $2
recall.
million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
So I think we're well under budget.
Yes,
yeah, I
you
don't
are.
think that was an issue.
But it's a change from the August board meeting, and it's substantial.
I
So,
appreciate the update, but I do believe we want to get this project underway. I mean,
yes,
there's some deadlines that we have, and
exactly.
is everybody okay to move that forward?
Yeah, is this then, like, timing of this, and I know we still have the sidewalk over there too.
Sidewalk will be next year,
It's going to definitely be next year.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a rough idea of, I guess, how much of the cost comes from switching to ductile iron versus, like, I guess, how much cheaper would it be if we were to not do directional bore for that segment?
Oh, gosh, I would not recommend open cutting because
Okay.
you would really disturb the businesses that I think we're all pretty sensitive to with what they've gone through the last couple of years. And I didn't do a comparison of directional drilling versus open cut, but honestly, with the restoration and concrete restoration for approaches and sidewalks, you're probably very close to the same number.
Okay, that's fair enough then.
But no, to answer your question, I didn't do a comparison. My recommendation would still go with drilling. Okay.
I think we're all on board to move forward, right?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
we are. So I would
All right,
do that.
thank you very much.
Okay, that'll conclude our reports for tonight. We're going to move on. We do have a public hearing tonight, and it's a consideration establishment of an industrial speculative building and industrial facility tax exemption, IFTE certificate. And Brian, you're going to give us a little insight before we open up the public meeting, please.
I will. Thank you, John. So up for consideration this evening, as you mentioned, is a public hearing for 3 different resolutions. The first is to establish or consider establishment of an industrial spec building status. And to give you an idea of where we're at in the township, this is Quadrants Industrial Park off of Grand River and Lakeview Drive. So we're talking about this building right here. This is between Grand River and 12 Mile on the very northeast, the eastern portion of the township. So the first purpose would be to establish a spec building status for this structure. It is constructed today. The second is to consider an industrial facilities tax exemption on the building itself. And the third resolution would be for the tax exemption on the real property, so the improvements specific to the operator of the facility. In terms of the operator, the company is called MOBA. Currently they're in Farmington Hills, and they'll be relocating approximately 53 employees to this site. MOBA's core business is design and manufacture of packaging equipment for the agricultural industry. We received this application. We understand that they also intend to bring 150 customers annually to this facility. They've provided some estimates in terms of the amount of generation for restaurants, hotels, other local businesses, entertainment, those types of things, of $150,000 to $200,000 a year. The project also is proposed, or in the application materials, it details a 125-month lease of the building. So MOBA is going to be occupying this building for 10 years plus. The subcommittee of the DDA has reviewed the project and scored it as eligible for a 6 to 8 year abatement based on the scoring. So that takes into account the number of employees, the length of the lease, impact on traffic and the environment, those sorts of things. So coming out of that recommendation board body is a 6 to 8 month abatement for the township to consider. So again, you have 3 public hearings. When it comes time to take any action on these, we would request that you consider each resolution individually. The applicants are here this evening. They can answer any more questions that you might have if you want additional information about this project and this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Brian, for explaining that. Does everyone kind of understand it? Okay, with that being said, we're going to open the public hearing at 7:21. And anyone in the public that would like to come up and talk about this, feel free. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:22. Okay, we're going to move on to unfinished business. We have 4 ordinances that we want to clean up. These are second reading of all 4. I don't believe there's any changes to any of them from the last reading. Brian, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the first one is the fireworks, to update the penalties and the violations for the fireworks, and that would be ready for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 09-21, Chapter 26, offenses, fireworks, subsection C.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to the next one. It's a consideration to adopt the buildings and building regulations, property maintenance code, additions, insertions, and changes, the weeds, and to provide penalties for violations. Any questions on that one? All right, motion to be in order.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 10-21, Chapter 10, Section 3024, weeds.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, moving on to the adoption of ordinance 1121. This is a weeds and tall grass, noxious weeds and tall grass ordinance for penalties and violations.
Come on, Chris.
All right, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 11-21, Chapter 18, for noxious weeds and tall grasses.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move on to the last ordinance. It's to amend Chapter 46, utilities, delinquent charges. These delinquencies would be transferred to the tax roll to provide penalties and violations.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 12-21, amending Chapter 46, Article 1, Section 4633A.
I'll support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, haven't cleaned up. All right, we're going to move on to the library, the public library project update. Someone from the library?
John,
Yes.
I wanted to bring up before they began speaking, my son just started working at the public library within
nice.
like the last 6 weeks or so. I don't anticipate that to be a conflict of interest in any sort, but
Okay.
I just wanted to at least notify the rest of the board of that. Does anybody see that as problematic.
Okay. No, I don't think so.
He's a fantastic employee, I'm sure. But you can make that part of the record.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Making that public. Okay, now, our updates, can we keep it like in a 20-minute?
I tried to make it brief.
Thank you.
That's I could read it. Amy Deeds, Lyon Township Public Library Trustee. We had planned to be at your September meeting, but we were asked not to be on the agenda then because you were very busy at the time. So we are here tonight to give you an update. We last presented to you on July 6th. We gave you, I think we gave you background information about the library, told you like what some of our services were, what some of our issues were with space, and a conceptual view of what a new library would look like on any piece of property. So, and then I asked you if you would be willing to work with us on a joint project for an improved library with flexible indoor and outdoor space that would benefit the entire community, and it would fulfill a need for a community gathering space. And all of you gave really positive feedback. We were really encouraged. And then several of you suggested that the 11-mile Milford Park area would be a great location because we could share in the large infrastructure costs that are involved with that piece of land. So to move forward with that idea, you suggested that we meet with Leslie, your engineer, and Brian, your planner, and to discuss that site and any other possible sites for a library. So Holly, our director, and I, we met with them on July 28th, and Leslie and Brian were able to share with us a lot of the development issues that were associated with the 11-mile Milford site that you guys encountered when you were trying to develop it as a park. There was talk about part of the road needing to be paved, the cost to cross the drain, issues with water, it's a floodplain. I think, unless, if I'm wrong, please correct me, a lot of the infrastructure costs were around $1.2 million, I believe we said. I'm not
Probably
positive.
something like that.
The utilities would have to be brought across Milford Road. Leslie also pointed out with the addition to a library to the area, we'd probably have to add 50 parking spots to the area. But she felt that even with all the playing fields, the courts, the playscape and the amphitheater, that was still feasible to do that because there was extra area towards the back. And then Chris, you had brought up maybe there might be some federal grant money involved with maybe to help pay with crossing the drain, but that would definitely have to be looked into. And then there was always a question if you were willing to enter into a combined bond with the library to develop that area. And then we talked about our current library site. And as far as any of the four of us knew, there had really never been any formal investigation about the current site for expansion. The library itself, we looked into expanding the parking lot about 4 years ago, but we kind of abandoned that idea because of the costs involved were significant because of, to the north is obviously all the trees, wetland. And then Leslie, she still thought that expanding the current facility, even with probably putting in new well, new septic, dealing with any of the DEQ wetland issues, it still might be cheaper than building a new facility. And both Leslie and Brian agreed that there would have to be a decision made by the township of what to do with the current building. What would you do with it if we moved out of it at some point? There would also issues with how the building was built with community block grants. So any legalities with that would have to be addressed if we can even add on to that building at all. If we would be giving able to be given that building at all. And then there would also be issues, like if we, with new building on that land, would we be given any variances because as of right now, I think the parking lot is too close to the road, the building's too close to the, there's a lot of issues that weren't in effect when the building was built in the first place. And then would we be required to bring water and sewer down from 12 Mile Road instead of having a well? So that's another cost involved with all that. And then we also asked Brian if there was any other locations in the township that would fulfill the need that we were looking for with enough space, anything centrally located, and he said no, he did not know of any other sites at that time. So then Leslie told us that she was planning on having an engineering meeting with, I think it was Patty, John, and Michelle that following, I think it was the following week you were supposed to have it. And she would bring up everything we discussed at the meeting with you guys. And Holly and I, we both stressed we're willing to talk about any site, any kind of joint program or project. We're willing to look at any other ideas. And then Leslie said she would keep us updated about what happened at that meeting. I don't know the exact timing of when your meeting happened, but we hadn't heard back from Leslie, because I think you also went on vacation in there too at some point. So Holly sent out a summary about that meeting to the Township Board and to all of the Library Board on August 17th. And then we did hear back from Leslie on September 20th. After we had asked, or did you hear any updates from? Did you have any updates from that engineering meeting? So Leslie's, it'd probably be easier if I just read Leslie's email. She said, Holly, Amy, I've met with the township about the sites for the library. As of right now, it looks like the two options would be to, number one, expand the current library site. If this is the option the library prefers, additional research would be necessary by the township to make sure the entire building can be used for a library. It is my understanding that the building was built with grant funds, and grants typically have criteria that has to be followed even many years later. And then the other option would be number two, the Milford 11-mile park parcel is an option for you. The township does not anticipate the park will be moving forward anytime soon, so this would be a library project only. Also, I want to mention when communicating with the township, it's important not to email the entire township board. They cannot communicate with you on a group email with all the board members due to the Open Meetings Act. The appropriate place to discuss items with the entire board is at a public board of trustees meeting. Please keep day-to-day emails limited to the township full-time officials, Brian Kesey, Carol Rosati, and I. Needless to say...
Can I say something, please? We don't know what you want. You see, you come here and you say you're going to give us an update, and we're just not sure what it is you're asking for. So when you say we go into these engineering meetings and things, we just don't really know where you're looking. Or are you only looking at township property? Because it would seem kind of funny for Brian to me to say there's no place in the township for the library. Or are you talking about just township-owned property? I guess we have to figure that out. We don't know.
At that point,
we're kind of in the dark as much as you are.
I know. That's why I said we were open to anything, any ideas that anybody had to put towards us. Obviously, we can't afford to go out and buy a piece of property, not with what it's going for now. It's very difficult. As I say, we were very disappointed after getting this to find out that at this engineering meeting, you decided that this combined project, which everyone seems so enthusiastic about, was no longer an option to us at all, unless we did it on our own. And realistically, if you couldn't develop it into a park on your own, we certainly can't develop it into a library
But it
on our
sounds
own,
like
because
you
those are
haven't
just...
made up your mind where you want to go. I mean, first we have
We
to
can't make
figure
up
out-
our mind where to go until we know what is available to us.
That's what I
That's why, I guess that's what I keep feeling like, you say, okay, let's go here, let's go here, okay, we get excited, let's go there, and then you come back and say, no, you can't go there, let's look at this instead. I just feel like it's constantly
We're asking
back
for you
and
to come
forth.
here and actually tell us what you need. I'm not sure what you're looking for of the township. Are you looking for the township to buy the piece of property and then donate it? Are you looking for the town, see, we don't.
I've never
know
even
that.
heard that as an option offered to us,
Well, I
the
think
township
it's-
buying a
you
piece
gotta
of,
have-
piece of property.
I thought we
just
were,
don't know.
I don't know if this is the time to mention, I
It
thought
is.
we were talking about, because I'm super excited about having a joint project at the 11 Mile Park property. We talked about, I mean, I kept pushing like, all sidewalks lead there, and we had all these, I guess that's what I thought we were,
But we have to know what we're getting into, right? We have to know if you really want to go there, then let's propose something there. Let's try to figure it out. We don't know. We can't just throw numbers out there and say, well, it might cost this or that. I mean, I think we need to figure that out. If that's where you want to go and you need the township to kick in cash for it, we just got to figure that out. We don't know we're not sure what these meetings are doing.
Well, we're kind of in the same boat, honestly, because the last time we came to you guys, you were the ones who told us to meet with Brian and the engineer
Yeah.
to figure out which properties in the township, which we did, and that's what we were reporting on. And now we're being told that you guys are not wanting to go forward with the joint park effort, and that decision was...
We haven't been proposed anything. You can't just walk
What
up and
kind
say...
of
Then how
proposal
can-
are you looking for?
What
Do
are
you
you
want us to
look-
go
what
out and
kind
get
of
an
monies are you
architect
looking
and
for?
plan
What
this and
kind
that?
of monies
Because
do you want the
that all
township?
costs money.
Right, but I just need to know, what kind of monies are you guys looking for? What do you want us to do? We need to figure that out first.
We want you to work with us to figure out and identify a piece of property that the library can be built on. I don't think we could
Why
be
is that
any
up
more,
to us?
hold on.
Why can't you
I don't
do
think
that?
we could be any more clear to you guys. We have come here month after month. We have constantly updated you. We have at the,
What have you asked for?
we've asked for you to help us identify a piece of property owned by the township so that we can go on it, so we don't have to put the cost to our community for an addition.
We are limited on the pieces of property that we own that would accommodate
We
you.
have 3 perfectly pieces of property we like to talk about. We have the 11 Mile, we have the Milford Road property that you originally promised to us.
Nobody's ever done, that was back before.
Don't say nobody, because that was an agreement made by the township to the
All right, we're not going
library.
to get into an argument match here. I want to know propose something to the township board.
We don't know what to propose, because every time we meet your goal, you change the
There's
goal.
no goals we asked for. We said, look at this project.
At the planning commission, we have Patty Carcone telling the planning commission at the last meeting they had that she's never gotten any kind of idea of the square footage. What was the exact words?
well, the new, whatever you're proposing for the new.
Which is,
It's the same.
it's the same
Nothing's
one. We
ever
gave it to you in
changed.
July.
Exact
We
same
brought it
thing.
to you in July. It was in your board packet. We've given it to you multiple
The wrong
times.
assumption then. I thought that was what you proposed before, so you're planning on building exactly the same building that our voters
No,
said
no.
no to.
The
No.
one we brought to you later, the one we brought to you that was a downsized building of 19,000 square feet, not the 25,000 square foot building. The smaller one that we did a whole presentation on
Yeah.
and showed you the building of.
We
That's,
did it in March. We did it in
That-
July.
that's-
We've done it
that's the one.
in May.
I guess
mean-
I'm also wondering, like, how, at this engineering meeting, how was it decided that that's something the township's not going to do
Oh, I
when
don't
all the
think anything-
township was not
nothing
even,
was decided
the
at
trustees
meeting.
were
I
not
mean,
there.
We're trying to figure out what we need. You guys really have to ask us what you want from the township. Is it money? Is it property? Is it help? I don't know. We
All
have
the
to know.
above. If you're willing to offer it, well,
I mean, the last meeting you told us y'all were going to work with us, and we get an email saying
We're
you.
working with you.
Then what was the email? I would like to know what the decision on the email was, then, because that's what's confusing
What
me.
email?
With the one I sent?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. The one saying that the township is no longer going forward with the joint effort to build the park in the
because that's
library.
exactly what it
We don't even
says.
know what kind of monies you want.
Why don't I explain my email that I wrote? okay?
Yeah.
When I have meetings with the full-time officials, I have 12 agenda items at least on every one of those. The library was one of those items. I reported to them that we discussed 2 properties that the township owns when we met with Amy and Holly, the 11 Mile Park and the existing library site. At the time of the meeting, the park project was canceled, or at least put on hold. So at the time when I met with the full-time officials, as of right now, there is no park project. So that's what prompted the response that you received.
Right, that's what we're asking is, how is it, in July, it was, oh, we're so excited, we're gonna work with you guys, we're gonna do this, and then it was decided on a unofficial meeting that you guys were not gonna work with us
Did
and
you
you're
hear what she
done.
just said? She said the park project is on hold. Our part
So
of
then
the
why
project is
wasn't,
on
why
hold.
were you even suggesting it to us in the first place
Well,
then?
why wouldn't we? It's a perfect piece of property for you. Why can't?
So you're not
But you
making
knew,
sense
but
to
you
us.
knew we couldn't afford to do it on our own, and it was
Did I?
discussed as
But we
a
haven't
joint
said that we
project.
aren't gonna help. We just said
I'm
the
at a
park
loss.
project. I'm at a loss. I have no idea where we're at.
You're,
I thought that, because I just looked up the meeting minutes from, I'm at a loss with
Me
some
too.
of this information, so I was unaware of some of the communication. So the July 6th meeting, I mean, again, I'm all about sidewalks. I mean, every meeting I'm about sidewalks. I thought that I was personally pushing for the 11 Mile parcel instead of any other parcel because we have all of these paths, and I thought that the expectation was that we were going to look at, could we come together with a project, a joint project to cross the drain, because it has always been the biggest expense. So that's what I left July, thinking that that's what we were doing. I'm not
We
sure.
don't have any numbers. We don't know what it's gonna cost.
we
If
can't
you're
get
saying
numbers
it's
to
one-
it.
You
Cost
have to
the
have
drain.
numbers.
What's that?
We know what it costs to cross the drain, but we don't know.
1.2 million?
Right.
That's a cost to go across the drain.
It was the 1.2 million. Because
That
we had
was
those,
going across
we
the
had
drain?
those estimates
I'm
from
gonna
when
look it up.
the
Yeah,
park
that's-
project and the
I think the 1.2
MDNR
was the
grant.
phase 1 infrastructure costs with the whole site grading as well.
It's
So
over
With
2
the
the
million.
drain cost, the drain crossing was the
drain.
significant piece of that, but there were other things.
Okay, so let's ask this question. If the township was to help, if we were to say, okay, we'll throw in X amount of dollars to cross a drain, if we said that, how much are you willing to give? How much monies do you have set aside that you could put in also? You see, you want a joint, and it's 1.2 million is what I'm hearing.
That's the first.
That's the
That's
first
just the
phase,
first
so that's
phase.
600,000 up front on each side. I mean, if you guys just have to propose, we have to figure out what that is. We can say 1.2 million all day long, but until we iron it out and we put the building on the property and we figure that out, we have nothing to go from, and neither do you. If you don't put that all together, are you guys willing to come up with the cash before you go? Or, I guess that's the other thing. Are you gonna say, okay, it's 680,000 or 700,000, and put that in your bond or to go for the vote to get the library? So then that puts it all on hold too, until we figure out that, right? We have to know how much money it's gonna cost and how much money the township can throw at it. We're throwing out, okay, the piece of property. We all said we would help get across a drain. I don't know we don't know how much it's gonna cost. And until we figure that out and you guys get serious, if you really wanna be on that piece of property, that's part of it too, right? We're all kind of in the dark on everything, just as much as you are, we are too.
Well, I don't think telling
This
us
is
to get
taxpayers'
serious
money.
about this situation is appropriate, because, I mean, we've tried countless of these meetings, we've tried subcommittees with you guys. I mean, I don't know how more serious we can get about this
Because you have to
situation.
take the role and run with it. You guys have to figure it out.
And we
Okay,
did that,
you
and the
understand-
rug was pulled out from underneath us
It's not
in
pulled out
March.
from underneath it.
It was.
You understand that when we take taxpayer money out of the general fund to put towards something like that, it's kind of, you've got a millage for your operating millage, and then we're gonna take money from there. We're also donating the property. We have to sell that to the residents. You know, we just can't willy-nilly say, hey, we can throw 700,000 or 900,000 into the whole mix. We have to sell that. So we need to know what it's gonna cost, and we need to get people on board with that also.
And in order to get a final number, or a ballpark number, we need to identify a piece of property.
Do you want the 11 Mile Park property?
We
We're
have been
asking-
coming to you, asking for your help and we constantly hit roadblocks. You said, meet with the engineers and identify properties and bring it back to you. That's what we did, and we were told the park is no
What are
longer
you
going
hearing
forward.
right now from me? I'm saying identify where you want to go, and we'll figure it out. We can't just say, we can't just go in and say the checkbook's open, you can have whatever monies you want, and we're all in. We can't
We
do
didn't
Nobody's
ask for
asking that.
No one's
But
ever
I'm just
said
saying,
anything
that's
like
what
that.
it feels like. There's just, all I'm saying is we need, if you want the 11-mile park, you've got to figure it out. You've got to bring it to fruition and see how much money that you want us. Do you not want to do that?
Can
Do
I-
you not want to do that?
Could I make a suggestion?
Yeah, please.
Like, what I would recommend is, what if the library board takes a look at there's 2 properties that I sent you information on that the township controls. What if you put a cost together for each of them, come back to the board with a specific request for either or, so then they have something to actually make some decisions on. There's been a lot of meetings and talking, but really nothing concrete in front of them.
Well,
That would be my suggestion.
If I was finished, that's what I was going to say. There's a lot of information that we need to get from you to look at our current facility, because we don't even know if we're allowed to if that's even an option either. You have to tell us, is the community block grant a problem? Is the wetland, or the variances, all of that, how are we supposed to put together numbers for something we have no idea about, is what we're saying about that. And you have the numbers for the 11 mile because you already tried to make it a park. So if you already had a plan and everything for that, and you were already raising money for it, so we assumed you already knew all the numbers behind that.
Well, this is a new day. These numbers have went through the roof.
Oh, we
They
know
are
that.
really used to
And we
be.
know it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
But we don't want to stall right now and and have everything shut down because of one engineering meeting or whatever saying one of them's not even an option anymore.
Leslie, I have a question about that current facility.
The
You
current
had mentioned
library?
that- Yes.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that it's too close to the road and too close to the lake and too close to just about everything. I mean, is that?
I did that?
No, Amy, right?
Oh.
I mean,
Okay.
if you look at probably some of the ordinances now,
So is that even an option for, if
Yes.
you were
That's still an option, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're allowed to continue a non-conforming
okay.
use.
But even
with an
expanding it?
expansion.
Well, and
You
I
have to
guess
go through a
that,
variance
Yeah.
process.
that's one of the points I wanted to make too. I mean, I think certainly you can explore both sites, but when you come back to the board, what you would say, for example, is, you know, if we were just to redevelop and expand the existing site, would you be willing to grant us variances for setbacks? Would you be willing to allow us to redevelop with the well and septic? You know, with the specific questions so they can evaluate it and say, yeah, and I can help here or I can help there. You know, something a little more concrete for both the parcels. I think that's why nobody's getting anywhere. If you can put
and that's
those
what that
lists
meeting
together.
was all about, was to come up with all these questions.
Can I make a-
And to explore some of those issues. And that's, so we didn't expect to come out of that meeting with a definite, you know,
Yeah.
oh, this is the one, we thought this was just going to be more discussion points. It
Can
was
I make
just
another
the email saying, oh, that the 11-mile one is not even an option anymore. It's like, that felt like, wait a minute. All of you never talked about that, saying that that wasn't an option anymore.
Is it okay if I talk? So there also could be another option if it's not on township property. I spoke to one of the Langans. They told me that they have 10 pieces of property that they are looking to sell. Now, I might be out of the ballpark, I don't know. But one is possibly next door. They talked to me about the corner of their golf course. And if you think about it,
I don't know what their golf
That's-
course is.
it's,
10 and Curry.
yeah, right on 10 and Curry.
Riverbank.
They have the
Oh,
little
Riverbank.
clubhouse, Riverbank. So, I mean, if you think about it, I'm just thinking if I were a person and they built, let's just say if they built a sub around that, you would be right on 10 Mile. That would be pretty attractive for a neighborhood to have a library. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, they were mentioning several pieces of property to me because they read it in the newspaper that the library could possibly be looking for property. I don't know what that cost is. Is that cost more than a piece of township property that we have to improve? Or might it even be the same? I don't know, but that might be another avenue just to check out. Again, I don't know, I think you said 7 acres, isn't that what you told us, Josh?
It's probably more like 8 to 10.
Okay, well, I thought 7, but that could be right. But I don't know what a piece of 10-acre parcels would be out there, but they said they had 10 parcels that they're looking to sell. So, I mean, I'm just saying, it's always an avenue, even though it's not township property. Sometimes it's almost cheaper to buy a piece of property than, and maybe there's something, you could work it out, or, I don't, once you bond, you pay for the property, I don't know. But, I mean, that's another option to maybe consider or check out, because he called me about that, so I wanted to bring that up tonight.
And that's exactly why we were trying to work together, to have some of these things come up and that issues come up. It just,
so
when you keep saying to us, we don't know what you want, it's like, you know what, we're looking for property.
I guess some of these things is part of the issue is timing. Like if you guys were going to go for a bond, obviously a bond vote for the library, it would logically be in November 2022 when it's, a midterm election, so to speak. So in order to even get that process going, you pretty much got to get moving pretty darn quick. My one question though is the Mill River property not being considered anymore because of that?
It's not because of what they said. It was no longer on the table. That's because of what the board said.
16%.
But that
Right.
16%, depending on what we're building there, could be less than crossing the drain over at the Mill River,
Right.
The other property.
Yeah, we were just told
What's
that
the
was no longer on the
estimate
table.
What's the estimate on your building? What's the estimate?
It's the same estimate that we gave you. Obviously, it's
But
going
it
to change a little
can't be
bit.
from March to now what COVID prices are. I mean, it's got to be increased. That's what I'm saying. We don't even know what a real price is for today or next year. And I know we won't next year, but I mean, it's got to be more than what it was in
Sure.
beginning of
But
2020.
we won't know any of
until we have
that.
a piece of property
Yeah, we won't know any of that.
identified,
We don't know any building costs, infrastructure costs.
Okay, I have something to say. I am the president of the library board. My name is Cheryl Chuck. All of you know, or maybe the public doesn't know, that the township is the landlord of the library. We did get a new roof put on. We have trouble with the septic. We have trouble with the water. The building is sinking. And we just want to build something for the community. And the things that are there, and there's no storage in the building at all. It is out, we have outgrown, the community has gotten bigger, and we have outgrown this building. We have no place to put anything. Now, being the landlord, I think that maybe that falls on you as to how it could, the price of the building could be expanded, whatever. The parking lot has to be restriped, it has to be re-asphalted. Landlord, what you gonna do? You want us to build a brand-new building so you could have this land to do what you would like to do for the community? Or you're gonna make us suffer with what we've got? We're just asking for, tell us where we can build it, because it's unsafe. It's unsafe for the staff, it's unsafe for the public. Let's take another look at this. It took 10 years to get a new roof put on that building, until children were in story time having water dripping and tiles were bulging. So, what can you offer us? I want to hear you say you can offer us something, or prove what you have, because you are the landlords.
Okay, so I'm not sure where we go from here right now, only because I think we have to determine where you want to go. If you're really serious about the 11-mile park, then let's start working on the 11-mile park. If there's another place that you want to go, I mean, the township can't find the property for you. You do have to look for some of these things and bring them to us. I mean, we're very busy here. We're doing a lot of work. We wear a lot of hats here. And we're not trying to slough off a thing. We are willing to help anybody do anything. It's just, we're very busy here.
And you have to
But I mean,
remember
I can-
also, we aren't developers. So when you say do the work, give us numbers,
So let me
I
ask you,
don't know,
is
I
it-
don't even
is
know
it-
what that
is it
means.
your-
And that's what we thought working with Leslie and Brian would help us with some of that.
Yeah, and it will help, but we have to determine what piece of property we're going to.
So in March, when we did all that work and came to you and said, here's all the money, here's the price, the building, the land, we identified everything.
It
We
was
paid.
everything from the last time. And
It doesn't matter. You
Yes,
turned it
does.
down
It's
and said,
brand
what are
new
you
money.
talking about? We have no clue what you're talking about.
It's brand new monies nowadays.
I'm talking about
I
them.
can't argue about this anymore. Where is it that you want to go from here? I guess we have to figure that out.
Well, before I.
You want the township to find you a piece of property and they say, here's the piece of property, and then we engineer it and we figure out from your drawings. I mean, is that what you want us? I
No,
don't know what you want us
we
to
never
do.
said that. We've never said you do all the work. We just asked,
No
we
work.
thought it would be a joint project. It would, because you
It
really
will
wanted
be.
the
It
park
will
and
be,
we
but we
really
have
wanted
to
the
get there.
library. We thought that
So-
was a good option.
Is the park
since-
the joint park and library, is that still on the table?
Well, why
Because we've been
wouldn't
told
it be?
it, because we were told it wasn't.
There was. I mean, I understand
You have
a
to
little
go
bit of their
through the whole
frustration
process.
because I didn't realize it. I misinterpreted Leslie's email. She had a good explanation tonight, but what I was surprised about was the fact that the Mill River piece wasn't involved in this. And I don't know if you guys, if that's not what the library wants, then it's off. It's up to you guys. Like, what I want to know is, kind of echoing it is like, what would be your ideal? What would be your ideal situation? Do you want the Mill River piece? Do you want the joint project with the park? Do you want to have the 11-mile Milford Park property as a solo project, or do you want to improve your own facility?
I think that if we had to identify something right now, it would be the Mill River, because that's what we kind of have all thought of the entire time, up until that March meeting. So that would be, for me, the ideal piece of property to look at. But we were kind of informed several times that that absolutely was not happening. A DPW was going there, or something. The township needed more than a library.
It's not a
No, we
DPW.
don't
We're
even have a
looking at
DPW.
possibly putting our new fire station there. That's kind of what we're talking about. We need a new fire station, and that's basically what we were talking about.
We really do. We have
We
a
need a
lot of
fire
ideas.
station.
We need to talk about it at budget time.
This is my point.
I'm just going to give my opinion, and I would say that if I were, the information that I would like would be, even if it's not something that you necessarily would want, I would like to see the difference in cost, this mysterious 16% of Mill River. What does that cost? What is the cost then of crossing the drain? And then what would be the cost, like just a ballpark cost of improving the current site? I think that if you had a rough estimate to all three of those costs, then it could narrow it down, because if the 16% of this Mill River property is skyrocketed compared to crossing the drain, then that makes things easy. If the cost of improving the current site is significantly more than the park, then that makes things pretty easy. But I personally would just like to see a rough estimate. I mean, I'm not saying full engineering analysis, but just a rough estimate, and then have an idea of, what are the limitations of the current site. I mean, I still think that what's problematic is that there's really no sidewalks or pathways that will get neighborhoods around it, aside from, well, no, there really are no sidewalks, except for the apartment or the co-op right next door. So, what's that?
We don't have sidewalk.
Well, I mean, you walk through the parking lot
Yes.
to get there. But, so even if I had all of those numbers, I would still, again, I'm not going to just go with my own personal feeling on it. I still continue to lean toward the park property, because I'm sure you could probably contact the junior league, see if they'd be willing to go into some kind of cooperative development of that, put a ball field there like we wanted to do for 19, 20 years, maybe. But I see that as the ideal location. But the first step, I think, would be how much is it going to be to drain, cross the drain? How much is it going to be to make your site, your existing site safe, or like meet these requirements? And then what is this 16% amount? And then I guess too, if you could receive the contact information from the Langens, I mean, maybe it is going to be cheaper.
Well, maybe it's not even the Langens. If they contact a real estate person to look for property, I mean, that's just who called me.
Right.
Because
So
they read it in the paper, but.
If he
I mean,
called you.
I mean, if I'm looking for property, I think I definitely would contact a real estate person to see what's available. That could be even cheaper, but maybe not. I mean,
We're just trying to avoid buying property to build another community piece of property,
But
build
it
it
could
up,
be
when we
less.
already have in the
Yeah, but
community
it could-
property owned, rather than making the taxpayers pay yet again more money for a new piece of property that we
Well, what
bought from a
you're
real
saying-
estate
Well,
agent.
we got
Josh.
those pieces of property in one we got it in a consent judgment, and the other one was also
PD.
part of it. Yeah, we didn't pay for any of these properties ourselves, so.
I mean, that's,
But-
crossing
but-
the drain could cost so much more than buying a brand new piece of
That's
land.
right.
That's,
And I
that's
have
what I'm
those
trying to
comments.
get
Right.
to. It's a possibility.
Yeah,
It could be
estimated
even
2 years ago.
cheaper to have your own land with your own, and I mentioned that because he mentioned it to me, and I said, oh my God, this would probably be a fabulous.
And that's all we're looking
But it
for.
might,
That's why
you know,
I was going
it
to
might
end by
not work,
saying,
but it's a possibility.
can we still meet? Can we still work to get numbers from Leslie?
Absolutely.
I mean, I
Help
have
to
the
get-
drain crossing numbers, that it's an estimate from 2 years ago, but, you know, one of my questions is, have you talked to a general contractor in today's market to find out what it would be to build a 19,000 square foot building?
No.
See, I think that's something that you'd have to take on and bring those numbers. I can give you some of these site improvements, but that's part of the total package. Like when I'm doing pros and cons of any project, right? You look at, like earlier tonight, the different pipe types or whatever. That's where I'm recommending, list your sites, pros and cons, costs. These are the building costs. Talk to general contractors, get real numbers. I can update the drain crossing number, but that's the only number I have for any of these scenarios. The other ones you'd have to make some assumptions based on whether it was when you went for the millage 6 years ago and put a multiplier on it. But honestly, general contractors are a big resource. That would be my recommendation. I mean, you've got to kind of, I still think there's a lot that needs to be done even on the library board side of it. And if there's information you want from me specifically, just email me and I'll give it to you.
So I'm taking away then the 11-mile Milford Road Park plot is still an option,
You'd like it. I mean, I thought we were.
but it's not a joint project option.
Speak up, Sean.
Well, and I'm sorry, I was late, and I missed part of this conversation, but, you know, one of the big, I guess, drawbacks when we were talking about developing the park years ago was that this drain crossing became this huge figure that was almost cost prohibitive based on the budget that we had. And so I guess the way I looked at it, and maybe this is just me, that if we have acreage that we can still use to achieve many of those park goals and could then share in the cost of that in some way with another entity who, you know, has goals in the same area, then we could both succeed because we're not paying the whole cost of crossing, nor would you be potentially. And that's, I think, Patty mentioned budget time, and I think this is an appropriate time to start planning if this is something that we're going to move forward on. But that property is sitting there, and the community has been expecting a park for a really long time. They didn't expect a huge recession, 10 years ago that was horrible for a lot of people. But, here we are at a point where perhaps we can, move ahead with something. And, that's right in the center of the township geographically. I think there are some, just in my opinion, there are some pros to that location. There's a traffic light there. Utilities are right there.
Sidewalks.
Right, the pathway extension that we just made along 11 Mile too.
$350,000 to get it there because we thought it was going to be our park.
Let's
We
see.
worked hard on that park.
What was the huge figure from 2 years ago for that drain crossing?
Okay, so,
833,000.
I thought it was 750, but
well, for
38.
phase one total of the park, which was pretty much the parking lot and a little bit of grading, was 1.5 million. Those are 2019 numbers. Yeah, just the right-of-way work was 833,000.
So that's the drain crossing.
Yeah, if you did the entire park, it was 2.5 million. if you did it in one shot.
Well, and again, just to advance the discussion, I don't know, you're not going to find property for $400,000 in Lyon Township. So if half of the cost, and these are 2 years old, so let's say it's $1 million, you're not going to find property, you're not going to find this kind of acreage for $500,000. So all the other costs of parking lots, things like that, you're going to put them in no matter where they go. And as long as soils are good, those costs are going to be what they're going to be. You don't have control over it. It's just what the market will require of you. So again, I think that, in my opinion, working together will allow us to achieve, at the township, to achieve a parks and recreation goal, library board to achieve the goal of potentially a new facility, and both of us the ability to share in a lot of these things and save money. Because without each other, I think it's very hard for either one of us to maybe bring some of these projects to fruition. So those are just my feelings. And again, I missed the first part of this conversation, but those would be some of the things that I would have questions about. What is it? And I think the reason that we're asking for costs now, and I think it's important now, is because if we're going to obligate ourselves to get maybe ahead with some of these facilities, some of this infrastructure costs now before we really start building, or improving the park. And that was one of the things that hung us up. It's like, how much money to have a parking lot? I mean, that would be crazy. So we would have to kind of gear up to do more than just sharing the cost of crossing the drain and putting a parking lot in. We want to put, into motion, I think, either a grant application or, some plan to move forward with developing a phase of that park. So we could deliver that too, because that's been a goal for some time. So.
I see, and that's what we came away from the last meeting thinking. But then, unless we, like Leslie said, maybe from Leslie's email saying that it was no longer an option for a joint project because the township wasn't going to be moving forward with that anytime soon. Maybe you missed that part. But I'm just saying that if that was misinterpreted, that's the way it came, how we interpreted it, that it was no longer a joint project option anymore.
Well, that might have been bad.
Did you even see Leslie's email?
I don't
believe I copied the full board. That's not our standard practice.
Yeah.
On my emails. But again, I think you need to see the different options and what today's cost would be.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, and to Patty's point, and when she said it, I agreed a few minutes ago. We're really getting into the time of year when we start to program for the next fiscal year.
We had the same disappointment you guys had. We had done a lot of work on that park, and we were really hoping to have that park. And that bottom fell through, and we had to give back a grant.
Yeah, we know that, but that's why we were equally disappointed when you said it was no longer a joint option.
The park is off the table right now till the board, the 7-member board, puts it back. I mean, it is off the table. That is a fact. Until budget time comes, that's when we would talk about it. So that's when we can't say, yep, park is good. That's up to these, all 7 of us. And that will be at budget time. And that's what I keep saying. The budget is coming. So that's when we would say, okay, if you guys can do this, we can do that. If we want to put it back on the table. But right now, the park isn't on the table. It's not in our budget. So we can't say it's in our budget because it's not.
I wouldn't expect it to be in your budget right now.
So that's you're asking the cart before the horse, and we're not.
No,
giving you
we're
the
just
cart
asking
before
you
the
to
horse.
think about it
Yeah.
being an option to be in your budget. That's all we're asking you.
Leslie, do you think, just out of curiosity, that for these folks, you'd be able to possibly, in short order, be able to kind of give a rough estimate on the new cost? Because I mean, it's 2 years ago. I don't know what just
for the drain crossing.
The drain crossing.
Yeah, we could update our estimate.
Yeah, because not only would I think it'd be good for us to have that just as we move into this year, but it might be helpful for this conversation just to apply some sort of a percentage increase to those numbers. I mean, not right this minute, but as we move forward.
No, I'd want to take a look at it a little closer anyway.
Is the park property something that you guys would like to have? I mean, would that be a perfect place for you?
Right now, with the way the library is, we are open to any parcel
But see,
of
that's where we
property.
have to iron this thing down. This is what I'm talking about. We need to know. Is that something that you guys would put some effort into saying that's where you want to be? Because if it is, that's when Leslie can get these numbers together. We can figure out where the costs are now. and then we can talk about it at budget time. Can we afford, how much can we afford to put towards it? I mean, that's something
yeah,
we'll have to
that's-
figure out.
That's what we were saying before. It is an option for us. But that's what we're open to it being an option for us.
parcel redesigned too, because.
Well, we would, but I think that the first part
What
would be
part
them putting the
stuff we can
library,
put down
situating
too,
the
yeah.
library, and we'd work around that. I mean,
Well,
that
the
would
other,
be,
the other thing with their acreage, and I'm sorry to step on
No,
you there,
go ahead.
the acreage requirements, when we start sharing things, that's when you start saving on area. So if, you know, we're gonna build a joint parking lot, we're gonna build maybe other joint facilities, outdoor, you know, patios, things like that, if they can be done in such a way where they're kind of co-located or put in a physical location where they can be shared, it's saving, you know, area, saving potential resources. If we're sharing, possibly in the cost of installing it as well. So it just seems like an efficient way of trying to move forward if we can get there.
No, I agree.
And if the public says yes,
Oh, sure. Right.
I mean,
Right.
they're going to have to bond for that.
Right.
So.
Right, and if it does become a library and a sort of a Parks and Rec project, there's probably, in all honesty, a better chance of it going through.
Well, and possibly other grant opportunities long term as well.
Correct. And we do have those, and I don't know off the top of my head, but we have had donations toward toward the park property too from past developments.
Yep.
So those can help supplement.
Can we?
The last, my numbers that I had, I think it was about $220,000 in donations, but I'm not, I asked Catherine if she could put together a list. Is that the?
Probably.
that makes sense? I mean, put some thought into that property? We need to know.
I mean, I still go back to like, what do you guys? What would be the most ideal situation for the library? And
Well,
it
maybe
sounds like
they're saying they actually don't know until they put their numbers down. They do their comparison.
Well, and even if we know if the current site, that would have to come from you, if the current site is even doable in the first place.
So I think it's
Because
doable, right?
you built it.
I think it's doable. Oh, you're talking the existing? I'm
Yes,
talking
the
about
existing, we don't even know if the existing, that's why I was gonna suggest, can we get more information? Yeah, when when I was finished, and I was gonna say, can we get more information about our current site? Is it even feasible? Do you have information about that?
Block grant
The block grant
restrictions.
I never heard that the building's sinking. Cheryl, I've never heard that. I've been here 30 years. So how do you know it's sinking, I guess?
I think what she's referring to is that on the back of the building, like where the cement is, it's constantly it's like sinking into the ground.
Maybe it had no footings. I mean, that's a possibility.
That's why we constantly have to have the door people out because
Probably has no footings.
Could be there was no frost pad put in under the door.
I don't know, the building's really old. I mean,
Anyway.
Yeah, that's why
it's old.
is it even
About it.
Is it even
So you want to
worth?
put some efforts towards the 11 mile.
Yes.
So I think that's what we should do. So you guys good with that? Put some efforts toward that, figure that out. Let's get
Yeah.
some hard numbers, let's find out what exactly you need from the township. I mean, as far as the joint to go through it, is it, we just need to find all that out.
So just for clarification, because I'm getting confused, you're saying joint, but then y'all aren't doing the park. Is that correct?
We're not going to do the park at this time. The park part.
At this time, what is that? I don't understand what that means, because I mean, we're not asking tomorrow.
We won't know that. We're not doing the park, the fields and all that at this time.
Yeah.
Then how are we supposed to figure out a joint cost if we
get
don't
a
know
cost
if you're going to?
No.
Well, I would think that we would have to commit to sharing in the
Yes,
cost
that's
of the
exactly
drainage.
what I'm
Just
saying.
figure out the
That's what we're
cost,
talking
and from there we discuss
Okay.
who's going to pay what.
Okay.
All right, thank you. That's what I was
That's what
asking.
we're.
So crossing kind of unlocks our ability to develop the park, which
Right.
we don't have yet. So
Right.
if this worked out and we were going to move forward and we partnered to cross the drain, then that would kind of unlock our ability to then develop the park plan. And obviously it would have to be altered a bit because
Sure.
if your building was to go on the site and parking and everything else. So the plan would need to be updated, but I mean, I think that's what I'm saying, like, we'll need to know what some of these costs are. If we're saying, yeah, we'll commit to doing that, we would commit to whatever our share would be, decided share, if that is indeed how it moves ahead, so we can commit to that, because you can't move ahead without a commitment.
Right.
Right.
And obviously,
Exactly.
you're going to the voters, and if you're going to go to the voters, you need to know that you have something.
Right.
And what,
Right.
what that something's going to cost. You can't come up with a program until you know what our contribution, would be toward that as well. So
Right.
That's just how I look at it.
No,
or
and
what I'm
that's
saying.
exactly how we're looking at it too. It's like we can't really do anything until we know what you'll commit to also. Yeah.
Right.
Because it kind of makes us stuck in the same place.
Personally, I'm still very intrigued by the idea of the joint park library project at the 11 Mile site, because obviously that park is something we've been wanting to have for a while. And this would definitely help us do that, along with potential synergies where having the library at that location, while yes, it takes away some of the space, it would also open up additional possibilities for programming that we couldn't do without having a staffed facility there.
Right.
If that's something that the board decides is your first choice and you just want to plow ahead with that option, then I think we just need to nail down the cost numbers and put together an agreement for sharing that cost if your proposal were to pass by the voters. But if you're not ready to do that yet, I mean, I'm still willing to entertain either of the other sites personally. But at that point, I guess we need to know from you what you need from us to put together. I would imagine you want to do some sort of side-by-side, here's our costs for these different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And like Leslie was saying, your building numbers, not us, get updates from a GC out there somewhere. But, I mean, can we commit, I don't know, Brian, Leslie, whoever, to getting them information about the current site and what limitations might still be attached to the original funding of that, as well as...
I wouldn't have anything on the current library.
I just searched. I don't have anything out.
I think
'Cause
that's, I don't know, I think Carol
I know-
might have to help us with that because it's so
It's
Okay.
old.
I just know years ago I was told that it was built with grant money and...
way before our time.
Right. And
So-
it was, what, it was the
I don't know
80s,
if
I
we
think,
can-
or if I...
I don't know what,
But-
I don't know how to, you know.
I think we need to nail that down, because even, I imagine at some point you're going to have to, even just in the process of trying to sell the voters on any proposal, you're probably going to want to sell the fact of, well, why can't you just stay where you are?
Right.
Sure.
And having the solid information about the limitations of that site, I think we need to have that.
And in the end, that's what we were going to ask. Can we get, that's what we were going to ask you for. Can we get information about crossing the drain? Can we get numbers, legal issues about the current site? That's what we were going to say before all, they got sidetracked.
Right.
And I think
So-
timing of this has got to be a lot faster than what's happened. I mean, you were mentioning that you were here in July and didn't even get responses till late July, then August and September.
Right.
So if you're really trying to go for a bond in November 2022, you got to get those answers quick.
I won't have an updated estimate that quick, though, just for the record. I'm going to need a couple of weeks to put real numbers at it.
No, yeah.
So,
No, we don't expect it tomorrow.
and if I'm taking too long, feel free to email me.
That's
Okay.
basically the only number we give them. It's just the
Yeah, and
number.
then obviously if we have any building, stuff on a building, old building file, it's all public information anyway. Not that we wouldn't share it with them.
We
but
don't
it's just,
have
you know,
anything on that building, on the
no
current
old building
library.
records or anything.
We didn't, like, make
We can
ourselves
find
go through any of our...
anything.
It looks like the property was split in 77, and I'm guessing that's about when it was built.
It was built in 1981.
81?
Yep. And I was told when I started 15 years ago, actually by you, Patty, that it was built with community block grant.
It was. That I remember, Holly, because I remember Chris Dusan telling me that.
So,
And that
I
we
know
had
all the
limitations, like we can never sell it.
Right.
It's got to be used for something to do
Yeah, I mean,
with,
it's-
like we got the grant up here. Same thing. That was, well, that was with a bunch of
That
different
was
grants.
trust
but-
fund primarily.
But, yeah, and we had to rebuild that bathroom because that was built with funds So,
Right, it just has, for community block grants, the general stipulation is.
I'm sure we would,
stay.
I mean, I'm sure we would take, if you guys moved wherever, I'm sure we would take that building and just probably maybe make it a community center. Or, I mean, we need it anyways. Lots of people want to rent things. There's no place for us to do that, you know.
And the
Or
library would help with that also.
association or anything, yeah.
Because we
I
do
mean,
that now.
we
That's
put
what we do
all our
now.
events
We
together,
we
sure
book
we
that
can.
room, what
Yeah.
Holly said, I think 97 times
Yeah, we
last year.
can't,
Yeah.
yeah, we can't sell it. I remember that, being told that, but.
So before we go, does anybody need a copy of the presentation, the original March one? Because to make sure you all have the decent numbers.
Yep.
You do have it?
Well, those
Okay.
are, they're not decent numbers. I mean.
They're not the new ones.
You need
Well,
to-
I meant just a starting point of where we
Yeah,
were. I was just making sure y'all got that information
Yeah.
because I want to make sure we've got fully informed everybody.
Is that the one that's on the website?
Yep.
Yes.
It's on our website.
On our website, too. It's in our packet.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. All right, we're going to move on to new business. Consideration of Resolution 2021-20 to recognize speculative building status of 28355 Lakeview Drive.
I don't think I need to rehash what we talked about at
You
the
kind of
public
went
hearing,
over
but the
that.
applicants are here if you want to hear from them. Otherwise, it would be appropriate, it would be our recommendation based on the scoring table that we, let me get the correct, that the Township Board approve Resolution 2021-20 to establish a speculative building in the established industrial development district.
I guess just generally for spec buildings, is it typical that they won't come and ask for this designation until after a user is identified? It just, it seems odd, the timing of this to me.
I guess I've seen it done both ways. If you look at LDC 1, for example, you just set the district in October or November and a tenant hadn't been identified. In this instance, they're being done at the same time. There's nothing in the statute that prohibits that timing.
So it's still able to be considered speculative even though a tenant is now identified because it wasn't identified when it was started?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. You can consider it speculative if it sits empty for up to 9 years per the state statute.
So I'm kind of to tag along on that. So that's why the application says 2018 is year of improvements.
Mm-hmm. Right, because that's when the spec building was actually initiated.
Brian, I don't think you mentioned the number of years.
6 to 8 are the options. So for the spec building status, there's no number of years tied to it.
It's just making it a spec.
Well, there's a blank in the resolution.
Not in 21-20.
Oh, okay.
It's the next two.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess,
Everybody good?
Does everyone understand that?
Yeah.
Motion to be in order.
okay, so I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-20 recognizing speculative building status for 28355 Lakeview Drive, parcel ID 2112301010.
I'll support.
All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to the consideration of the resolution 2020-21, approving the application of MOBA Americas for industrial facilities tax exemption. You think we're going to talk about that also?
I did. So as Robert pointed out, the big question for the Township Board is the scorecard suggested between 6 and 8 years is appropriate for the tax exemption. So that specific duration should be stated in any approval of a resolution.
You know, this is the application to allow them to put in for that, right?
I'm sorry?
This is the application approving MOBA for the industrial facilities tax exemption.
Right, it's still a resolution.
Yeah,
So
then
it's
we gotta
still-
go to the resolution.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
it's a resolution.
So we'd have to identify the time period now.
Yes.
Yes.
So this first one is for the shell.
First one is for the shell, and the second one is for the real property, so it's the improvements for the operation itself.
And so the user is the applicant
For both.
for both.
Yes.
Okay.
Confusing
But they're, yeah, I guess I'm a little confused on the mechanics of this. So they're the tenant, they're leasing it. Would the lease typically obligate, in this case, I mean, maybe this is a question for the applicant, but.
And we can bring the applicant up if you'd like to.
Sure.
Come on.
I guess just, in the scenario of, okay, if we approve this or if we don't approve this, what's the difference? Like, is the lease structured where you're responsible for the property taxes, even though you're the lease?
Yes, we're responsible for the property taxes.
Please give your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Craig England. I'm the president of MOBA USA.
Any questions?
I mean, that was my main.
No,
I walked all the way up here. Yeah, that was
No, that was kind of my main question too, because there were three different ones and how this all kind of fit together. So
Yeah.
you're the owner and you're kind of the, I guess, lease, or the tenant.
Yeah, we're the tenant.
So,
Yes.
okay.
For, as I think Brian said, I think we've got 125-month commitment.
Okay.
So,
Is this a full abatement or is it like a portion? Like this, I'm not super familiar
Typically
with
they're
these
50%.
ILTs.
I don't remember the specific number, Robert.
Okay.
I believe it was 50%.
50%,
Yeah.
That's what we've always done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess the question is the amount of years, and we do have a score sheet that Brian and the executive team of the DDA put together, and it came out with 6 to 8 years, 8 being the maximum term and 6 being the minimum.
Was there a?
And I'd just like to make a point. I mean, with what's going on with COVID and everything, I think we were trying to be conservative with our numbers, and that, I mean, we've got a lot of opportunity for growth, and as a matter of fact, we're building the building out and only staffing it about 70% full to begin with, because we just don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of years with COVID. But from the beginning, it'll be set up for an additional 30%. So that's, again, I think we've tried to be conservative in our estimates that made up the scorecard. So
Is that 30% employed but working remotely, or is that 30% that they're not employed at this time?
30% additional that will additionally employ.
Okay.
So.
And I know you said, or I had read the letter stating that you were going to be bringing in people for training, and you take in local students for training. Is that something, I mean, I know you planned on bringing a lot of people here. So it's kind
Yep,
of
so
nice.
our company is responsible for North America and South America for our company. Again, we're in the egg handling business. We sell capital equipment, and about 10,000 square foot of our facility will be set up as a training center. And we have training regularly, monthly, about 15 training sessions a year. And there's generally 8 to 10 people in those. So we bring them in, cater lunches into them. They stay in the local hotels, play golf at the local golf courses when we have to entertain them, or get to entertain them. And so we estimate there's probably about 500 man days when you look at how many training sessions we have and the number of people. It's about 500 man days of people that we bring in a year.
Great.
Are you doing manufacturing at this facility as well, or just offices, training, service? Sort of?
So we do some light manufacturing and assembly work. The majority of our equipment is we bring over from the Netherlands, but we do design, manufacture, build some components that are specific to North America and South American markets.
Any other questions?
Just make sure that you remember you're in Lyon Township. I know your address is Wixom, but we are in Lyon.
I know, and I've lived in South Lyon for 20 years, so I've seen what's been going on around here. And
Wait, the city
like
or the
it.
township?
I live in the city, so.
Well, that changes things.
6 years, that's it.
Yeah. But,
They are making a 10-year commitment. So,
Yeah,
Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going to say, we usually look to the DDA to do an evaluation, make a recommendation to us, and I think the majority of the time we find within the range that they recommend, and this is sort of up their alley. So I guess I'd be inclined to make a motion if somebody.
Please.
If everyone, okay, I will. In this case, make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-21 for a period of 7 years, which is right down the middle of the recommendation of 6 to 8 years for MOBA Americas.
Question would be resolution 2021-21, right?
Oh,
I looked at the agenda, it said
It's
20,
wrong
yeah,
on the
thank you, 2021-21. Well, we were talking about 2018 a minute ago, so it's just,
I'll support.
Isn't it?
It's 2021, it's wrong on the agenda.
okay.
all right, we have a motion and a support for a 7-year tax abatement.
I'll support.
Okay.
Oh, Chris,
I
already
think
did.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at
You
the,
gotta get pretty early to beat Enlow to the
I know.
second, he's sharp.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
okay, thank you very much.
All right, now we're going to move on to the resolution approving the application of MOBA Americas for industrial facilities tax exemption certificate.
Given what I just said, I would make a similar motion in the case of 2021-22 for MOBA Americas for a 7-year period.
I'll support.
Okay. Chris, on that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to consideration approval for Taraceta Mexican Grill, Inc. to obtain a Class C liquor license. And I'm kind of excited about this one, you guys.
Yes,
They've
we
asked
are.
us quite a few times. We have one available.
And we're going to probably have several more available once.
We
So
will.
that's what they said, another year before we
Yeah.
know, but we want to give him this one.
Yeah.
I do have to look it up for you guys everybody.
And this is a Class C license?
Yep.
Liquor license. This is for us to recommend approval from the Liquor Council. So I would be all for this.
Is that a motion?
I'm just curious, I guess, whatever happened to the attempts to do the resort class license?
It didn't work. They
it's
fell
very
through, and
expensive.
it was
Okay.
expensive, plus I think something happened with really the seating and everything else. I'm not sure what happened, but
There's like a
Tina
septic
tried.
system too or something.
yeah,
or-
Tina really tried, so.
This
Okay.
is
I
really,
just, the last time I heard Tina had still been working on
Yeah.
it, so.
this is a good thing. He's been waiting a long time.
Yep, no, I'm
They've been very good to our
more
community.
than getting it, I just.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution from the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Liquor Control Commission to award Rodolfo de Anda Sanchez for Taraceta's Mexican Grill. So if we approve this resolution, we can go to the
Support. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question, ladies?
Yeah.
Would we want to reference the McKenna letter that talks about the agreement?
I was
Oh,
going
yeah,
to say, we need
transfer.
to reference the agreement.
And you agree to
He
the
already,
agreement
it's already
keeping
in
the
here.
license
He
local?
He already signed it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure for the record that we have it.
I
Okay.
think the approval is subject to the
Yes.
agreement restricting transfer.
Sorry about that. I should put that in there. Yeah, I'll
And that's part of the
modify
motion?
part of the
Yes.
motion.
Okay.
I'll
that
second.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy.
All right, Aspen Trails Plan Development, extension of approval, AP 21-37. This is just a simple extension.
Yes, so within the ordinance, you have the authority to approve a 1-year extension to a plan development. This particular one is Aspen Trails. which is 78 units on the west side of Martindale Road. Mr. Alco is here this evening if you have any specific questions for him, but the Planning Commission reviewed the information and suggested or recommended approval of the additional year in accordance with the ordinance. So any questions you might have, I can take them, but that's the recommendation, and we have no objection to that extension.
How does this potentially impact the Martindale paving project?
It's not going to happen.
I think we were getting funds from, was it the county was going to, was it the county or just us?
They committed 300,000.
I guess I'm just, do we know that is extending this going to cause a problem with that contribution? Do we think?
Not that I'm aware of.
If we don't extend it, we'll never get it paid.
Fair. I'm just.
Yeah, because we had 300 from the road commission. Thanks, John, for that negotiation, and in paving and sidewalks and stuff associated with that. So that's all. Nothing's changing basically. Is the question. So the sidewalks will stay in.
Yeah, this is just an extension. We do it all the time.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve AP-21-37 Aspirin Trails Plan Development request for extension for a 12-month period, 1 year.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And just so the record's clear, that extension is 1 year from the August 4th date.
From August.
4th.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rick.
All right, we're going to move on to the Magnum Building Addition Special Land Use AP 21-35B. Right?
Thank you, John. The reason this project is before you, this is a just under 100,000 square foot addition to the Magna building at the southeast corner of South Hill and Grand River Avenue. This is coming before you because since the building was originally built, the Wellhead Protection Overlay District has changed and now encompasses a portion of this project or of this property. So within the scope of that ordinance, any building addition is required to undergo the special land use review. Otherwise, if it were not in that district, this is a permitted use. This would just go to site plan review and move forward from there. You have a review letter dated September 26th, and we find no detrimental impacts associated with this project. Going back to the original approval for this site, several additions were shown as future phases on the project. So things like the traffic study were conducted based on the full build-out. Same thing with lot coverage, standards, things associated with those. So we have no issues from a planning and zoning standpoint. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and received no feedback or no concerns. They did approve the site plan contingent upon special land use approval by the Township Board and recommended approval of the special land use. So you have all of the information in your packet. I can answer any questions you might have.
I have one.
Go ahead, sir.
How much taller is the berm that'll be in front of the new part of the building with loading docks facing Grand River compared to the existing one that has loading docks facing Grand River?
There's no extension to the existing berm that's proposed as part of the site plan. The new landscaping will be built farther east on the berm that's out there today.
Okay, so the berm will remain as it is?
Correct.
Okay, and was there a lot of focus on the screening? And I know we're talking site issues, not wellhead issues, but you know, we've talked a lot over the years about the look of this building from Grand River and trying to frankly screen it because the best part of this building faces South Hill, not Grand River. And so can you talk a little bit about kind of what measures the Planning Commission took to make sure that the screening is increased and beefed up so over time it's not loading dock centric from, you know, our busiest highway in the township?
Sure. So that was one of the things that we worked on, and they are here this evening if you want to speak with them. But one of the things that I worked on with the architect was designing the the color scheme and the facade for that north side to minimize the appearance of loading docks, understanding that it is, I mean, it's pretty blatant today. They're white and the building is gray, so they really pop. If you look at the elevations, I don't have them up on my screen, but we can pull them up if we need to. They're really designed to minimize that appearance of that improved glazing on that north side, on the addition, things along those lines to improve that facade. And then in terms of the actual vegetative screening, they've added about, I believe it was close to 200 feet of screening on that berm. We wanted to make sure that there actually is an irrigation installed, so we have verification that it was installed previously, because that was one of my concerns. Is over time we've kind of seen this periodic things brown up and we get a lot of calls and then it all comes back to life and the calls go away. So we wanted to make sure that the irrigation was in. So that's really what we looked at in terms of making sure that can live and can thrive moving forward. They've also done a lot of replacements in the last month. We identified a list of dead or dying plant material that's been replaced as well.
And I did notice that not only were those materials replanted, but they appeared to be replanted at a larger size, perhaps, or maybe it just looked that much better because it was, you know.
They may have. I didn't encourage a taller plant replacement, but that may have been the case.
But I think they listened to us very loud and clear.
Yeah, I mean the planning commission was pretty vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just
probably me especially.
No, and I can appreciate that because that's one of the things I hear about maybe more than other things around town, and so I just wanted to kind of push this a bit. Obviously, the building was approved by the Planning Commission years ago and designed in such a way that the addition would be just like this. I mean, that was their plan, so it's hard to reverse course. And we're not here to talk about the site plan, but I found myself having a hard time getting to the decision tonight without mentioning some of these things. So I think it's important to, go the extra mile to screen what I think everyone would agree is not like the most focal part of this building, but instead something that is, more service oriented for the operation of the building. And I think having the landscaping beefed up a bit is pretty critical here. So again, I'll get back to the wellhead issue at hand, but thank you for answering those questions, Brian.
And just to tag along, I was on the planning commission at the time, so thanks for those compliments, Sean. No,
yeah.
No, but no. To be honest, I did. Years ago, I did bring that up, and I got chastised by our DDA director for suggesting rotating at 90 degrees. But it's good. It's a nice. It's a nice facility. It's happy to have them in the township. My only comment on the special land use on here, the impact of traffic, and it was obviously when it came out. The study was done and all that. South Hill's been paved. There's a signal. The item, and if I'm out of my lane, tell me. But we've had a lot of complaints of truck traffic cutting through South Hill, going north of Grand River. And when the site, your neighbor to the west, came in, we had them put up, or they will be putting up signs that says truck traffic to use, Grand River, not continue north on South Hill. So I guess my suggestion to the applicant is that something that can be
Chris,
signed.
let me use this to the applicant. Okay.
Yes.
Could the applicant come on up? Come on up.
Yeah.
Come on. We were just kind of asking Brian. I was going to want to bring him up, but we're all good with Brian right now. Okay. Could you give your name and address?
Good evening, Paul Thurston with Becknell Industrial. I reside at 2007 West Erie, Chicago, Illinois. So just for clarity, we are the landlord, developer, general contractor, and architect. We are not Magna, the user. So if there's directions to give to them about the trucking, I need to convey that to them.
So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it was just to have a sign at your exit where the trucks are leaving to remind them to not go north on South Hill, specifically to the gravel section to the north.
Are they doing that now, or?
I don't know, but I have received several calls of trucks doing it, and I don't know if it's you guys. I don't know. We've had the sheriff's office out there because it is a no truck route anyway.
I will definitely mention your concern. I know that, their trucking is trying to get to the highway as quickly as they can to get out to, I believe this contract services the Delta plant in Lansing. So I think that's a different pattern, but I will certainly convey.
It would seem very inefficient to go that way, that's why, but there's an abnormal amount of trucks going that way, so.
I will definitely communicate that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
I was fully prepared to say no, probably until I saw that the replantings had taken place. So I appreciate the Planning Commission's diligence in addressing that, and that.
It was certainly embarrassing to have dead plantings and screening that was a failure, and
Yeah.
it was talked about quite a bit ahead of time, and we had several calls and meetings to
Every once in a while,
address
I
that.
call
so.
Brian and say, "Hey, tree's still dead," but.
I can
Brian
confirm
loves
that
those
they have.
I do. Highlight of his week.
Yes.
It is.
I think that we had a really nice conversation with them, and I think that they finally understood that it's not us really nagging, it really is their building, and we need that screening, and we get a lot of public comment about that, and I think they really did listen to us this
Right.
time, not that they didn't in the past, but I think they really did get it this time, and
I can tell you or give you a little context here that Magna operates, there's a corporate level and then there's a division level, and the divisions run the facilities themselves, and I can tell you that Magna Corporate hammered the division on all things facade of the building, and I think they got their attention, so
Yeah.
that message was conveyed.
Okay,
I believe that to be true, so we'll.
any other questions?
Are you ready for a motion?
Yep, I am.
I'll make a motion to approve Magna Building Addition Special Land Use AP-21-35B and reference McKenna's letter of September 26, 2021 for approval.
Okay.
I'll support.
Is that Elise?
Yep.
All right, we have a motion in support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, trustees. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to move on to GRA Loading Dock Addition Special Land Use AP 21-39B. Brian, you want to bring that one in?
Yes, thank you, John. Also up for special land use discussion for wellhead considerations this evening is a very small but important addition to the loading dock area of what Patty had called the Jerry Baker building before on Grand River. Up on the screen is the site plan. So today there's an existing truck well on the north side of this building. This addition will allow for interior unloading of vehicles to make this a more marketable building, as I understand it. So correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, but the wellhead protection area is actually just a very, very, very minor area here on the south side of the property. So the actual addition is not in the wellhead protection area. The Planning Commission held their public hearing again September 27th. They did not receive any public comments. They reviewed the plan. There are two variances that are required to complete this site plan, one for the side yard setback and one for the rear yard setback. So the Planning Commission talked a bit about the impacts of those variances and really determined that there are none. Next door is the Blue Cross Blue Shield parking lot to the east. There's an addition, or there's a loading dock on the building to the north, so they really had no concerns whatsoever, assuming that those variances get granted. So they did approve the site plan condition on the variances. They recommended approval of the special land use, again contingent on the receipt of variances for the building location in regards to the setbacks.
I'll move the approval of AP 21-39B, subject to the comments in the McKenna letter, to the Planning Commission's recommendation, and obviously to subject to the Zoning Board of Appeals granting the variances that are necessary.
I'll support. I did have one question.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Go ahead.
Actually, it's actually for the fire chief. This, and maybe it's more the building inspector, but since this is now like within, I think, 30 feet of the building next to it, is that it looked like it was a masonry structure, so I don't assume there's any fire
we took a look
issues.
at the construction material that they were using.
Okay.
It wasn't going to really make a difference in that aspect.
Okay.
Somebody asked that at the planning commission too.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you. Excellent. All right, we're moving on to the request to open bidding process for replacing engine 2. Chief?
Sounds good.
Go out and get bids. I don't see a problem.
I agree. Okay, good evening, everyone. The intent here is to initiate the process of replacing engine 2 by initiating a bidding process. So Assistant Chief Reg Madeline has been leading the apparatus committee, looking into different types of apparatus that we're looking to replace the 2011 engine that has had quite a few issues, and we've spent a lot of money in repairing it, and it's out of service right now, as a matter of fact. So this was to just try and get the approval for the bidding consortium. It's a cost of $2,000, which my understanding is I don't have to go to the board for $2,000 for the bidding, but I didn't want to bring to the board, 3 bids from the 3 manufacturers that we're looking at and say, and just surprise anyone. So this is going to take about 12 to 14 months to replace an engine. So we are looking at, late 22. By the time we get through this process, we'll be at early 22. So we'd probably be looking delivery of early 23. And so I would like to discuss, obviously, where we go with the numbers, the bids, at the workshop and possibly at the November or December meeting. But I kind of want to be ready to go because it's going to take a while, and this would just help get that going. And I can answer any questions, I hope, or Reggie can.
Yeah, I don't see a problem for.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
I think it's really disappointing. The performance of the current truck is incredibly disappointing, and I understand it was a pretty low budget truck, and I think we got it paid for almost completely by a grant, or majority of it by a grant. So I guess you can't complain about something that was nearly free. But at the same time, 10 years that's horrible. And so my hope is that we would not be going back to Spartan Spencer. Hopefully they're not one of the 3, because they don't seem to be putting out a truck that, in my opinion, just based on our experience, that's going to hold up. And, so I don't, Reggie's going to stand up. I don't know.
I was just going to say that the 3 manufacturers you are looking at are not included in that. And just to give the prior truck company a little bit of due respect, that truck was set up for failure from day one against better recommendations.
Okay, so they didn't even think it was, okay, so there's probably a whole, right, okay. So the new engine 1 is at Pierce, right?
Correct.
Okay, because obviously in that performance-wise, that's been spot on. I mean, is that one of the ones that I'm just curious
It
to know
is.
who the, okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's a secret. Well, it is a secret until I tell you, but it's Pierce, Pierce, Sutphin, and
Spartan Smeal.
Smeal.
Smeal's the other one.
Okay. Yeah, no,
And we all complain about, the problems with that engine.
Yeah, I happened to visit Station 2 just a couple of weeks ago, and I saw engine 2 was not there.
Right.
Or engine 1 was not there. I'm sorry, I visited Station 1 a couple of weeks ago. Engine 3 was there, engine 1 was not
Station
there.
2.
And I was talking to one of the people on duty, and they said, yeah, and they explained to me what had happened, and I thought, well, if I had $1 for every time I had heard that engine 2 was in for some sort of service, we could probably pay your $2,000 entrance fee to the Houston Galveston
And the one thing on that was, the area communities that are using it, Canton, Novi, Wixom, there were a couple at Dearborn. The savings is reported to be around 15 to 16,000 on the actual truck. So we pay up front, but we do get that in return.
It says 15 to 17%, which I would say is a heck of a lot more than that, right?
Really? You're going to put me on the spot here?
No, that's just what the memo says. So for 2,000, we can save potentially 15% on what's going to be a $700,000, $800,000
Yeah,
truck, right?
Yeah, we've been, we just talked to somebody from one of the departments, and they said they ended up saving 15 to 16,000, but yeah, it does say 15 to 17%.
But even if it was 15 or 17,000, it's still a pretty good
It's still
savings
good.
for $2,000, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and the one thing to note is why we want to also get this going is because not just the time to put out the vehicle, but the price has gone up dramatically. I mean, it's a lot. It's in the memo.
But I still, this is to me a problem for bidding. Getting this out for bid. Right. I mean, has anybody got a problem with that?
Not at all.
Do it. I'd say a motion would be in order to go ahead and let you do that.
I'll make a motion to, I don't have, let's see, what's the agenda say? To open the bidding process for replacing engine 2.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to go on to
Thank you.
consideration to approve refurbishing the training tower. That's you again, Chief.
Yeah, so we the last few years we've had the burn building, we've called it. It's a training tower behind Station 1 between us and the ball fields. And for the first few years we've used it a lot for various training, including burning. And we've invited area fire departments to come out, public safety departments, and there's been a lot of value in getting that live burn training that you don't often get. However, it's also created a lot of maintenance to try and upkeep. We don't charge other departments to come out, and we've decided to kind of change course. It's for safety reasons, but we can also up the quality of our training as well by we'll do smoke scenarios, search and rescue scenarios, but we're not going to add the heat. This way we won't be replacing drywall, paneling, lumber, all of the costs that go with it. So last year's budget, I did ask for $10,000 towards the refurbishing of the burn building. And we're looking at doing some metal fabrication work that makes it safer, also more airtight. And it includes replacing exterior windows, man doors, and then enclosing the container connections. And that cost was $9,720. If you prefer, we could hold off on the painting until spring. I'm not sure when this project would be complete anyway. And I also think we can get it a little bit lower than the $3,250 quoted. But that was a request from 977.001 for fire equipment.
Okay. Well, again, we should keep these things in good working order. We're using them for training, and I think this is a no-brainer to refurbish them towers. That's my opinion.
I don't know, this wasn't in your $450,000 grant you just got, so.
Yes, you must have missed that.
Yeah, I agree with John.
Would you want the whole amount approved, and then if you want to wait on the painting, you could, or how do we want to?
So I think we have the budget where we could take care of the painting. It's just if we start getting into December or January, because it's ugly. I mean, we need to spruce it up and make it look good.
We need to make that look good.
Yeah,
and right on the back of our baseball fields.
Yeah, so if I feel comfortable with the budget that we could go ahead and do it, it's just that by the time that the fabrication work is done, are we still going to be seasonal painting outside?
I think this is a no-brainer for the whole thing, but that's just me. I won't say it.
But you're gonna try to get as much done now so you can utilize your budget monies that you have, and then you'll put the rest into next year, or we'll figure.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get it all done, like starting tomorrow, and I mean, we'll get it done this year so we can have it looking good, and then I don't have to worry about it at all for next year's budget, so.
I will move the approval of $13,000 from line item 977.001 for the refurbishing of the training tower.
Support.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the consideration to approve planning fee schedule. I'm going to have Brian, because Brian's in this planning department, he's going to explain the need for this. Brian, you want to go ahead and...
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I want to note Catherine put together a nice memo describing what she's proposing here, but essentially she's ending up having to request additional funds on a more and more frequent basis from applicants, whether it's commercial or residential projects across the board. So by increasing some of these numbers, you see in the commercial and industrial things, we're increasing the deposit from $3,000 to $4,000. Those across the board increases are fairly minimal, but in terms of communicating with applicants, she can end up minimizing some of that time, minimizing the number of times she's got to go back to applicants, things like that. So that's the majority of the changes that are proposed. She is suggesting to add a fee for Planning Commission conceptual review, which today we don't have one on the schedule. That is a process that we've been requested to take to the Planning Commission from time to time, and there are occasional reviews or introductory letters from any of the consultants. There's Catherine's time getting that on the agenda, things like that. So that's a new fee, but we think it's a necessary one. And that's really it. We've added some special land use items, and she's suggesting the maximum allowed by the Zoning Enabling Act. And the last one is some clarification about ZBA charges. So where there's an active application for a site plan or something like that, she's basically denoting, hey, if we run out of funds for the variance request, we're going to take it right out of your site plan escrow that we already have on file. So that's the brief overview, but I can take specific questions if you have them.
Yeah, this is very well put together and very well explained. Any questions?
Are you just looking for an approval of this fee schedule here? Well, I will make that motion.
I'll support it.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we're on to the budget discussion, and we're going to have to take a little bit of time discussing this because Ed just texted me he'll be here at 9:15.
Isn't it 9:14? Oh no, it's not. My computer says 9:14.
Okay, well, everybody's got to get their calendar out anyhow, so.
All right, so the reason we put this budget discussion on is we would like to have a meeting, a budget workshop, sometime towards the end of this month, instead of waiting further along. So we were looking for dates that we could get together for a workshop. I know Sean had mentioned if we could do it possibly 5 and after, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
If the rest of you do.
we could skip pizza, get dinner.
We'll have John buy us all pizza.
No problem.
And, you asked me earlier today when we spoke about getting dates, and I'm sorry it slipped my mind, so I did not even look.
Well, we were talking about sometime towards the last week of October,
Right.
if possible.
I'm out of town the second to the last week, so.
So you're talking the week of the 25th?
Yeah, the week of the 25th is good.
You're
that
in
week is good. Yeah.
So that's the week I'm talking about, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So and it could be a weekday if anyone is good for that? Doesn't have to be a Saturday?
I think that's a.
Well, we were doing
have
workshops
them on
on
Saturdays
Saturday.
because they were taking so long. But we've gotten better.
John, that looks pretty good for me that week right now.
The
Anybody
only,
have any days that they're better?
Well, planning commission is
It's
on Monday.
so we can't.
So not
Well,
Monday.
we have, oh yeah, it's got to be an open meeting, so yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we can't be in here, so that's why we have to have it here, so.
So
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Tuesday, Wednesday is fine, Thursday.
the 27th, I cannot do it.
So
But the
that's
26th,
Wednesday.
I'm open.
Me too.
I'm open.
I am too.
Tuesday the 26th looks good. Chris?
Sounds
Do you
good.
want to do that at 5 p.m.? Is that what is everybody okay
Really,
with
I'd
that?
rather do it at 3, so way to go, Sean.
No, some people
Wanna do
work.
it at 3?
Some people work a full day. No, just kidding. I know you start
Oh,
morning.
I'm gonna record, I'm gonna send that to your wife.
I think, yeah.
So we're talking
I retract
October
that
26th
statement.
at 5 PM. So we'll post that.
26th.
Workshop. Special meeting.
So everybody go with that? 26th at 5?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to put some
And then is it okay,
preliminaries
we'll get
together.
some pizza,
Sounds
some
good.
salad.
And John's buying, which is makes it even
That's
better.
that's even better. I'll try to put some preliminaries together and get them out to you in the next
In
3
advance
weeks.
so that way you guys have something to look at.
I'll get an idea of what we're looking at.
She's mad at me because I'm committing you to having to buy us all pizza.
Hey, because she knows I would.
I know she will, and I knew you would too.
So we'll make some cookies, right?
Who's making cookies?
I'll make cookies.
We can bake.
Well, Lisa can bake
Yeah.
between 3 and 5. She's got time now.
Okay, so we've got that set October 26th at 5 PM here at the hall. So now we're in a little dilemma. Do we want to adjourn?
Well, if he's going to be here in a couple minutes, then I just
We're
kind
gonna
of.
stare at the.
What are we going to do?
Well, no, I
Just
had.
take a break. Can we all?
Okay, let's take a break.
Can we just
Yeah,
take an
break sounds
intermission
good.
real quick?
Yeah, let's
I
take
do
a
have one
break.
question that's kind of associated with what he was saying, and it was just an email I sent you and Leslie about, you know, what's our future plan, and I may just not know this for the Tanglewood well house now that it's offline, and
Oh. Yeah, well,
or is that something
we can talk about that because we really don't. We don't have a plan for it yet, do we? We do own that.
No. I think it's just being used for storage right now.
Well, let's take a 5-minute break and see if Ed gets here. And we'll adjourn for 5 minutes. Okay.
I feel bad, I forgot.
He just texted me.
Yeah.
Said he's on his way.
Okay.
I guess we can.
What's that mean? He's on his way, is he in Ohio?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Am I allowed to close the meeting for 5 minutes or keep it on?
It's just a break, so I don't know.
You can,
No,
you
just
can just put it on break.
Yeah.
So turn the, cut the audio for 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Take a quick intermission, is that okay?
Yep.
Break.
from Mr. Kidston from AOP. And our water.
Well, thank you for taking time for me tonight, and I just wanted to kind of update you where we're at on everything. The pump station, the 2 million gallon tank in the pump station is completely done now, except for I think we got to put some gutters on the side of the building. Other than that, Anthony is pretty well signed off on that whole thing. It worked well during the month of August. I know you guys don't notice it, but for me who watches your graphs each day, that was definitely the right move to make. We start that pump station up around 3:30 in the morning. We run it until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I might not be exact on my times because we've been kind of playing with it. Of course, it's not doing much this time of year, but June, July, and August, that is definitely going to help take the stress off the water plants during the sprinkler time, okay, when everybody's using water. So that one's buttoned up. As you know, I think, all of you, it's been a while since I've been up here, so I won't take anything for granted, but we did get approval on the new softening process several months ago. We went ahead and started ordering things at that point and fabricating the tanks that'll be needed for that process to be installed over at the Woodwind Water Plant, and we're just about there. We're in pretty good shape now as far as materials arriving. Those of you may or may not be aware, but I mean, COVID mess has really slowed the process down in America as far as supplies and vendors getting behind and that type of thing. But we're in good shape now. I think we're just a few pieces off from having everything we need to complete that Woodwind project. Next week, actually, we're going to start doing the underground piping in between. I don't know if you all remember, but we're going to build the softening plant and the old filter plant. Okay, all that equipment's been removed. And am I echoing too much? Or you hear okay? Okay. So we got to run 2 lines in between the new plant and the old plant. That's going to start next week or the following week. Then we have some concrete work to do inside the Woodwind plant to, get pads and stuff ready for this new equipment. And when all that work's done, I'm thinking right now, first couple weeks of November, we'll be ready. That building will be ready for the new equipment to arrive, and we'll start installing it and work right along and hopefully have it up and running as soon as possible. I wouldn't expect. I know I promised you, Chris, soft water by I know I promised you soft water by Christmas, but it got messed up a little bit with the vendors. I don't think we're going to have soft water by Christmas, but we are going to have soft water sometime this winter. We'll be able to turn that first plant on and operate it. And meanwhile, we're developing drawings for the South Hill plants for that softening process. We're probably a few weeks away yet from submitting on the South Hill plant, but it will follow right along, and everything's going well at the 2 existing water treatment plants. I haven't heard any complaints at all. They're running just like they're supposed to. I don't know that you've gotten any complaints on your water quality. It's been good. All the MORs I've looked at are really good, and so we're in good shape. Obviously, this process has taken longer than any of us had imagined in the beginning, but it's been kind of a good thing because we've stayed engaged with you here for a couple of years, and as we energized and put those new plants online, we've been up here a lot and been able to tweak it a little bit here and there, but that's about all I have. I mean, if you got questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
So, Ed, a quick question. We get Woodland up and online, and we're going to blend the water from Woodland. So Woodland will turn Woodland on, and then it'll drop the softness of the water somewhat?
Yes.
I mean, it won't be, like if we were 23 grains hard, what would we go to? Maybe 16 or?
Well, keep in mind, 9 months out of the year, Woodwind could supply all of your water. Okay, so if we want to, if we want to just turn Woodwind on and take your soft water right down to 11 grains or 10 grains, wherever it's going to end up at, okay, we could do that all winter long. We wouldn't be able to do that come March, April, probably about May. We would have to start pumping out of the South Hill plant, and the water would be noticeably harder to your residents. We'll talk about that on Friday because I've been doing this for 50 years now, okay, and what people want the same quality of water every single day, okay? And if you start messing with it, if you start giving them 10 grain water as an example in February and March and April, and then all of a sudden in June their water jumps up to 16 grains hard, they may notice that difference, okay? And that may cause some complaints, which we don't want, okay? But if we can get the plans going and get DEQ to react a little quicker, and I think they will this second round because it was quite a lengthy process the first go around, but now all we're doing is mirror imaging South Hill with what's already approved at Woodwind, okay? And quite frankly, I think Eagle is driven, if you will, or they want us to get South Hill up running as well as quickly as possible. So we might be able to get them to respond a little quicker, and if they do, then possibly we can be online with South Hill even by the peak summer months.
Just to go back to blending the water, if we ran Woodwind and South Hill at the same time, you probably wouldn't get blended water because South Hill would be pushing water probably, or would it?
No.
Would it blend completely?
No, you're right.
It would
No.
be consistent, wouldn't it? It'd be all over.
Yeah, you would. You're exactly right. The folks in the Woodwind subdivision are going to get 10 grain water, okay, on the way out to 10 Mile Road. Then after it gets to 10 Mile and it goes over to the 9 Mile Tower, you're going to get some blending that goes on, and also back towards the two towers you got on the north end here. So you're right. You're going to have a little inconsistency of water between your southern township and your northern township until South Hill is absolutely up and running.
So is that the plan then? We turn that on and let it blend, or do we wait until South Hill's on board to turn the softening on?
Well, I think Friday we kind of discuss that with Anthony and show you the pros and cons. I've got a PowerPoint presentation to kind of show you how that operates and what we want to do there. And I would go ahead and turn the softening on at Woodwind as soon as we get it up and running. Two reasons. One, any bugs we need to work out, little glitches. Eagle, we can be engaged with Eagle at South Hill and make those modifications in the design as we go. I don't think we'll have any, but well, you always have one or two, whether they're minor enough that we don't need to really have Eagle review it, or, but I would say we would engage in woodwind as soon as we get it up and running. And of course, when we do get it up and running, we'll start softening the water. We're going to have to do a township-wide survey for lead and copper. They'll require that, and we'll want to make sure that the water's not going to be aggressive, but you know, they want us to prove that to them. Okay, so that's one of the things that we'll have to prove when we're all done. We had to take a test prior to putting this on. We did this before we put the filter plants on too. Okay, before we put the filter plants online, we had to take a township-wide test. After we put the filter plants online, we took another township-wide test. Same process. We'll have to work with the softening. We'll have to do it prior to softening and then after the softening. And you know, the water quality has been fantastic with just the filters, and your residents are really going to recognize the softness when we get it all up and running. And but we're, you know, just to be safe, we're a year away from having totally soft water throughout the whole township. I mean, that's, you know, I don't think it'll take that long, but we should kind of bank on that.
Anybody have anything for Ed?
Just a brief, do you have, for the ground storage tank, I know we kind of designed that to eventually get shut off in the wintertime. Is that, do we have an anticipation of when that might be, or are we kind of leaving it on this winter?
Going to leave it. Actually, we redesigned it in the very end, and we put smaller pumps in, and we're going to recirculate the water there to keep it moving. We're going to try that this first winter. Okay. We've got temperature gauges in certain locations so that we can watch that carefully and alert us if we get anywhere close to freezing. But the game plan is now to just leave one of the small pumps run, okay, and it will circulate water and keep it from freezing. And you know, the 9 Mile tower and your two, I guess you're going to take down one of your towers. Is it the firehouse tower?
Yeah, we're painting the one up here at the fire hall.
Right now, or?
No, I don't think they're going to take it. When are they taking it down? I think he's talking about they're going to start changing they're going to move it over to 9 Mile for the SCADA.
Right.
They just did going to take this one offline this week, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a little bit about it, but I wasn't exactly I didn't know the details on the dates, but I knew it was going to come down. And will it be back online by winter then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No. They're just going to paint it. They're going to clean it, do some repairs. And paint
okay. So Chris, that tower will be back online. That tower will be back in control when we get into winter time, and we'll just have to watch it. We may not put 2 million gallons of water in the tank. We may only put 500,000 gallons, but we talked at length about, you know, do we drain the tank in the wintertime when we don't need it, and then have to go in and disinfect it and you know, put a whole new series of procedures in to bring it back up online. And you know, I think Anthony and my folks are in agreement that the best thing to do is just leave it online, leave chlorinated water in it, use it throughout the winter, move water through it the best we can, keep the water from freezing, and that's the game plan for winter 1, put it that way. It might not be the game plan for winter 2 and 3, but that's the game plan for winter 1. Okay.
So I think originally we had 2 pumps in the well house that were 2,000 gallon a minute, right?
Right.
And then because of the circulation in the winter, keeping it online, they went to 4 1,000 gallon a minute pumps that are actually in the house. So we're going to run 1 pump at 1,000 gallons a minute to keep that online.
Right.
That's what we talked about.
Yep. We went ahead and bought 2 additional pumps, and we spread the flow out to 4 1,000-gallon-a-minute pumps. Yeah.
Which I think is a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
Keep that one running.
It was actually the smartest idea. It took us a few days to get there, but yeah, that was actually kudos to my guy in the office. You know, he come up with that idea. So that,
well, a couple of days isn't bad.
Yeah.
To get there.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anyone have any questions for Ed? Things are looking really, really good in the water department, I'll tell you. He's done a great job, and water is very, very good. You know that.
Yeah, in the 15 years I've lived in the township, I've been on the water system, and it's never been this good.
Yeah, and our place down there,
consistent.
too.
I mean, never has there been any since everything kind of got flushed.
Yeah.
You know, it's been good.
It's been amazing.
Well, that's what
I've had more compliments than I've had complaints, and that's amazing in any water system.
Yeah, because usually most people don't think about their water at all until they don't have it, or if it's rotten, you know, and then they complain. But and that's kind of been my life. People always, you know, complaining to me, you know, but if they have bad water. But you know, I've been really pleased with how the system's operated. It's taken very little manpower. I mean, you know, I can tell you. And this, again, kudos to my office and my design people and my mechanics and everybody else. But, I mean, a 8 million gallon a day system, which is what you guys operate at in August and July and so forth. I mean, the system's designed for 11.5 million gallons a day, but, you know, other communities that have that large a system have 4 or 5 full-time personnel operating their plants, okay? And you guys are doing it with a part-time operator, okay? So you should feel blessed in that regard. It sits there and operates, and we keep track of it all the time. Our office, I don't know if you're aware of this, but our office has all of your alarms piped into our place as well. So not only does, if there an alarm or something does go wrong, Anthony gets an alarm, and then we also get the alarm, and so, and John gets it, and so, yeah. So somebody better react. I mean, one of these days, Anthony and I'm going to go on vacation, make John react, you know, so.
Believe me, I react. But it has been a great system. It's worked very pleased with it.
Yeah, good.
Any other questions for Ed? Anybody? Well, Ed, we do appreciate you taking the time to come up and talk to us.
Yeah.
I kind of promised everybody at the last meeting, except I didn't tell you, that I needed you here at this meeting. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It was time for me to come up. It's just when we were in this wait period for the materials, there wasn't a whole lot I could tell you, and so now I can tell you we're ready to engage again now, and we'll get this thing online as soon as we can. So, okay. Thank you. Have a great evening. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, that concludes
See you
our
Friday.
reports, and we've come to the end of our meeting. Anything else to discuss? Everybody good? Good. Okay, then I will consider this meeting adjourned.
9:32 p.m.